All right, Pastor Michael, are you ready for the 12 days of Restless?
I didn't know if that's like an introduction.
Well,
I am.
Yes.
I'm ready. I'm excited. This is always one of my favorite parts of the year. I feel like we always have fun, especially if we can find a way to do some of it in person. I don't know that we will this year, but.
Well, Pastor Michael, the other reason this year is going to be a special year, even if we can't do it in person, it's going to feel more in person to everyone else, because hopefully you're seeing it this way right now. We are going to attempt to do a video version of it for every day, still on the podcast, just like you want, but the 12 straight days of podcasting will also be on video on YouTube every day. Pastor Michael, what time every day do you want to release our 12 days of Restless video?
Oh man, does it matter for the algorithm? I want whatever's best for the algorithm. I'm going to be cold and calculating on this one. But maybe we should release it at a different hour of each day leading up. I don't know.
I'm sure that is not what's good for the algorithm.
Probably just in the morning, right? So you wake up and there's a new video ready for you.
That's a great idea. So we'll have them ready for you at 8 a.m. Central Time every morning. You can wake up. We're going to discuss topics ranging from Christian nationalism. We always have a good show where we just look at some classic memes that I've collected throughout the year. I'm just looking at the list of things I have for us to talk about. And there's plenty. It's going to be an enjoyable. I've got YouTube clips. I've got a tweet from Mark Driscoll. I've got all kinds of things that hopefully will give us plenty to talk about. Right now, if you want to become a Patreon, we are going to take open suggestions for a few ideas. If there are things you'd like us to discuss. So
patrons, you heard him. Put it in the group chat, and we will try to get some of those done.
That's right. So starting Christmas Day and the next 12 days, we take Sundays off. So it'll be a little bit longer than the actual church calendar, 12 days of Christmas. We will be releasing a podcast every day. And when we first did this, we were like, well, it'll be great. They'll all be really short. They'll be fun. Some of them will be, we've learned over time, some of them will be short. They'll all be fun. A
lot of them become mini-sodes where
that's right.
Where no, it's just regular. We just keep going. Listen, guys, we wanted to start a podcast. Do you think that was because we liked to not talk?
That's right. But Pastor Michael, because we are going to be trying to incorporate a video element, I thought today, as part of our promo for our event starting in a week from now, a week from when this promo drops, we should incorporate some video elements. And so, Pastor Michael, there are two Christmas traditions of Reformed Twitter that I thought we would participate in at least one of them. Pastor Michael, do you know what both of these Christmas traditions of Reformed Twitter are? Let's see if you can guess either one.
Okay, so at least one of them has to be just panning Christmas altogether, right? So saying, it's, I'm just going to church like regular, and, I don't celebrate any other special days. So one is kind of the fuddy-duddy side.
Both of these are going to be pretty fuddy-duddy, by the way, just to give you a hint on the second one. But yeah, absolutely. The Covenanters, we don't honor the church calendar at all. Their Christmas tradition is announcing that each year leading up to Christmas. That just happens to be their thing. I'm not going to take that from them. That's their.
It's what they do for Advent.
That's their version of Advent. Now, Pastor Michael, do you know what the other one is? Maybe think more Christian discernment ministry.
Yeah. Well, so I wasn't certain. But as you say that, I wonder if it must be then not just the panning of Christmas generally, but specifically pointing out those particular Christmas services or celebrations that are so off the rails, right? Like the drummers flying, little drummer boys flying through the air and that kind of stuff.
That's right, Pastor Michael. The other Reformed Christmas Twitter tradition is finding the most outrageous Christmas Eve services to remind us why the Covenanters have a pretty good point. So
They've got something going for them.
So Pastor Michael, this
Oh
year,
man, I did see this post.
this year, our submission comes to you from Hillsong Church I believe it's in Stockholm. So, Pastor Michael, this is
So
Hillsong.
they've got churches all over, huh?
They do. They have.
That's a bummer. That's a bummer. I knew that they had several, but that's a real big bummer.
So we'll find out how big of a bummer it is. So, Pastor Michael, this was during their, it's their kind of they do a pageant, as we know many people do. Pastor Michael, just as we go through this, as you've taken a shot at the hardcore Covenanters, yay, nay, or nuance to Christmas pageants as part of the as celebration.
I'm a general nay. I'm a general nay for the pageants.
Well,
I do love Christmas. Not a fan usually of the pageants.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think this pageant is going to win you over. So this was when you're Hillsong and you're always having to top yourself.
You always got to one up something.
You always have to one up something. And so this year, this is about a 2-minute song from their Stockholm's pageant. My sound has got to come through my computer because everyone, we need you to hear this more clearly. Sorry, 1 second, everybody. There we go. That should be better.
Do you love me? Are you riding? So you never ever leave from beside me. Cause I want you and I need you and I'm down for you always. Kiki, do you love me? Are you riding? So you never ever leave from beside me.
I don't understand what's happening.
And I need you and I'm down for you always.
Well, that's a pretty good place to pause it for a second. Pastor Michael,
goodness.
you said you were a bit confused about what was happening. So I guess you're telling us. Oh well, Pastor Michael, I'm not just bringing this to you with no knowledge. Pastor Michael, do you know what wonderful Christmas carol they're performing in this Eastern, this more Eastern version?
No, I don't know what that song is.
Well, of course. Well, I guess, Pastor Michael, everyone should be happy that Pastor Michael indeed doesn't know what the song is, because the song is actually a song by Drake called My Feelings, Kiki, Do You Love Me? The song, you have to clean it up a bit to perform it at their church, because the song includes sexually explicit language and language that would be inappropriate to say on this stream. And so they decided that song,
of course, that makes sense, right? That makes a ton of sense.
Produced, but again, I don't know why it was. What about that was particularly honoring to Indian or Eastern culture, right? Let's use Indian culture to perform one of the
like Drake.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that they were meeting about this, and somebody was like, what if we did a kind of Eastern thing? Yeah, and celebrate Hinduism, and we could do that best by doing a rendition of a Drake song.
Because I think that, again, now obviously you shouldn't do any of this, but I think there is I'll come back to this at the end, but I think there is a reasonable way to help people appreciate Christmas. If you have this much budget, to use Christmas songs or those kinds of things from different countries and places, right? I think there's a way to do that. That could be.
We've actually, it's very common for us to have a little choral piece at our Christmas Eve service that is a choral piece that is originally an African hymn, right? So we've done that kind of thing before. Yeah,
and so we almost got the perfect pause. Our internet connection today isn't good enough that I could get the exact right image. But you'll see it when I press play again. what these women right now are performing is what is called the Dance of 1,000 Hands.
Oh.
Yes, Michael, are you familiar with the Dance of 1,000 Hands?
I'm only familiar in the sense that it's like, I believe it's some kind of like Hindu religious ritual, right? Like this has to do with some Hindu goddess. Am I correct?
You are close. So now, interestingly, this is, I assume, how they would defend it, but it is just in what culture is it? I'm not sure. I'd have to look. But again, it's something that has become so common that it's used to kind of celebrate.
Like it shows up a lot.
Yeah, it shows up a lot. In Indonesia, that's where it is from. However, the Dance of 1,000 Hands, and specifically,
So is it Buddhist then? Is Indonesia primarily Buddhist?
Or at least Indonesia is now predominantly Muslim, but it is traditionally Buddhist. But this is from the Buddhist deity Quan Shi Yin, and is developed to honor this.
So a little more Christmassy, right?
Admittedly,
as you describe it more. Oh, okay. I see why they did this.
Why they chose a pagan Western song whose lyrics Michael and I can't read out loud on the podcast. Combined it with a traditional Indonesian dance done by Indonesian Buddhists to develop right there this multi-armed female deity. And so, yeah, so again, it's one of those things where why? Let's just watch the rest of this, and then we'll let Pastor Michael give us a little more. There's
This has to be offensive, right? It has to be.
I think so.
This has to be offensive to somebody. I mean, it is to me. For obvious reasons, it is to me. I just mean like within the kinds of people that a Hillsong church is trying to reach. This has to be offensive.
I'm guessing Indonesian Christians don't celebrate the incarnation this way. Just predicting,
right.
We're at a guess. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Hillsong is one of the organizations that memory hole actually a good number of their Christmas Eve services, which is a bad sign over time. That it's like, yeah,
I want to know what they've done before. Actually, I kind of want to know what they've done before. The ones that they've memory holed the most.
Do you want to read? Do you want a brief paragraph of things that have happened in other Hillsong Christmas Eve services? I'm not sure.
I guess I kind of do.
Okay, well, let me play the rest of this and decide if I really want to open that can of worms. All right.
Man, I don't even get the appeal. We've talked about this before, like the, at the movies series or You know, when JD Greer's church does Beyonce at church or like that kind of thing. I don't understand who wants this.
I can't come up with a person who wants this or who would want the depicting Jesus born in a riotous bar scene from a previous year. Hillsong's show where women were dancing in towels, or the weirdest where they turned it into a Vegas style show of Silent Night to depict what it would have been like to be in Herod's palace during the birth of the Savior instead of the serene place where Jesus was born. All sense deleted.
Oh,
now,
I mean, for the record, yeah, you guys probably are more on Herod's side. It makes sense for you to see it from that perspective. I'm just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be in the cattle stall, right, with the shepherds probably.
What?
I'm just going to say that.
So, yeah, Pastor Michael, what causes us to just go off the rails this way? Because again, I could have chosen from plenty of churches, and if I had not limited myself to this year, we could do this for 25 days of Restless,
right,
which would be miserable and we would never do. But
yeah, right. Well, so I mean, first off, it is not we, right? Because it's not Christian, right? It's not. I mean, it is in the sense that like so many other Christian sects are, right? And so many other Christian cults are. Like they're not truly Christian, but they are like they branch from, they stem from true Christianity. I think that's how we should see this kind of stuff. I don't think that we should see it and think, yeah, that's a part of what we're a part of. No, that's, I mean, you know, it doesn't mean that some of the people there or involved are not Christians. It just means that what that is not like, that is not Christian. And we shouldn't see it that way. But what is the real, like, what are you actually trying to do? You're just trying to entertain, right? You're creating a spectacle to titillate people, to excite them, especially to excite just like very base passions, right? And the worst of base passions, like the cheesiest, like most horrible of base passions. They're just the lamest thing in the world. And so
great
like
tickets sell well. Ding.
Like that's what you're doing, right? That's what you're seeking to do, is just to make people feel like it is trying to give people like that kind of concert experience. Like you're doing this show that tries to like really grip people, kind of engulf them into the you know, the performance itself. And that is, I mean, that is just inherently, it's entertainment, right? It's not, it is not anything. It's not worship. It's not Christian. It's not, it's just entertainment. And when it's done in the name of Christianity, when it's done in the name of like, hey, we're doing this as a church, as a service to God, that's when actually it becomes blasphemous, right? Like now all of a sudden, like you are blaspheming God with how you are treating him and how you're projecting what he's like to the rest of the world. And so that's where it's really dangerous, because you could say, well, is all entertainment bad? Well, a lot of it probably, right? Like a lot of it probably, like we've talked a lot about that over time. The way that it does dull your senses of the higher things, the heavenly things. That is probably not good, and it's hard to really say that there's a great good in any of it. But the fact that you do it as Christians, as a church, as a service to God, as a Christmas pageant, like that's where it takes on this level of actual blasphemy.
Right. This is the big interesting question, right? When it's very interesting that most evangelicals, and they will not agree on the reason, most evangelicals have a sense that something's kind of wrong in the church. Or like, right, even like people who want revivals, like talk about revivals or whatever, like, because there's this weird sense, like, why don't we ever have one, right? If I can read about them in history, why don't we have one? And I just think we've tried a lot of things. I mean, like, there's been glorious evangelism and missions done, right? There's been a lot of things that have, like, we could say we've excelled at. We've done very well at, in many ways. The thing that we are so bad at, that makes me say, like, we are in more need of reformation than the medieval Catholic Church was on the night of the Reformation, like on the night Luther was about to go pound that into the door, that the evangelical church, I mean, I'm pretty much convinced of that as a perspective, is our worship, right? If something is so wrong, and we believe worship is like, everyone will, yeah, it's the most important thing I do, right? It's what I'll do in heaven, right? All of that. Then maybe that is what is so wrong. Maybe that's what's really wrong. And maybe this example is just the little ways I want to make worship about me or about what I want to do. This is just that maxed with an unlimited budget, a completely craven perspective, doing it like to the max. Right. And because I do think there is a way where, and this is, I actually think, the danger of Christmas in the West. And I don't know if I tell this story every year. If I do on the podcast, it's just going to become our tradition, where I lived overseas for a good number of years. And I remember one of the first years while I was there, and it was not a predominantly Christian nation. So, right, there was not going to be there weren't going to be Starbucks cups, right? No one was going to, whatever, nothing was going to say season's greetings or whatever your stores say now. And I remember one day, and there was going to be no snow at all. And I remember thinking, the literal moment where I thought, this isn't Christmas. And then I thought this moment of, actually, this is the first moment in my life where I will be required to make this about the incarnation. That, if I'm going to celebrate, it is going to have little to do with the traditions that I grew up around, which aren't bad. They can be wonderful ways to celebrate, but I'm going to have to understand celebrating the incarnation completely differently, because all of the things that would have been a traditional cue are gone. They're not going to happen. They aren't going to be here. Right. And this is actually, I think, the help we can have, whether it's singing songs from a completely different culture, right? Or thinking through these things, because it can help actually ground us in what is important, the incarnation, instead of this, which is, it becomes so about these external things, entertainment, commercials and gifts. Is I now want to make the incarnation about those things. I need to bring commercialized pop entertainment in, because that's really what I'm celebrating. So that must be what honors Jesus this time of year. Right. And this is why the Puritans were against Christmas, by the way, everybody, just so you know, it's these things. Anyway, so Pastor Michael, do you have any closing thoughts? Because 12 days of Restless, we're gonna
there's so much more to come.
From the sublime to the silly, to the Christian sex that we are not letting in anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds fun, right? It sounds fun, and also it will be sad, but the good kind of sad, right? That we're sad for the things that we should be sad about, but also very happy, because ultimately it doesn't matter how goofy and ridiculous Hillsong is. They don't win. The base passions of man as they try to blaspheme the true worship of God. They don't win. They don't win because Christ came, because he did come and dwell among us and take on flesh, even coming to represent the kinds of people that we all are, that would do that sort of absolute horrible, awful, whatever it was. Even them, right? Even for them, did Christ come.
We're looking forward to spending the 12 days of Restless with you, whether you did much for Christmas or not. I hope you went to church as a Lord's Day service on Christmas Eve morning, and maybe that night too. But those questions more interesting than me. Then remember, the question for the season is not Kiki, do you love me? It's something completely unrelated to that. But join us 12 Days of Restless, 8 a.m. Central every day.